Good morning to you. Welcome to your bite-sized word today. I really want to encourage those of you who feel that you're in the in-between, that you've left the old behind, and because you've sensed that God is calling you into something that is greater, time of increase, time of expecting your breakthrough. And so you've left the old season behind, but you're not yet in the new. You're not yet in the breakthrough. You're not yet in the promise that God has given you. And so you're in that place called the in-between. So my encouragement for you today is to go to Psalm 23. I've got two Psalms to look at, and the favorite one is, firstly, verse 3, He restores my soul. When you're in a time of moving over to a new season or a time of waiting for the promises to come to pass, there's a need for your soul to be restored. And that is so powerful when you see He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. Many times we look at the verse before and we say we lie down in green pastures, He leads me beside still waters, and that's how He restores our soul. But you know how He restores our soul? He leads us in the paths of righteousness. He reminds you of who you are in Him. He reminds you that you are back. You have a relationship with the Father, an intimate relationship with the Father, and your right standing is in Christ. We are the righteousness of God in Christ. And so He leads us down that road. And when we begin to realize that the enemy is battering from all sides, saying, you know, that voice saying, don't move, stay in the familiar, don't cross over to the promised land. There's nothing there for you except more obstacles, more giants. And then God is leading us in a way by His Spirit to remind us of who we are in Christ. The price that was paid, our identity in Him, is what brings us into right standing with the Father. That's your righteousness, your identity is so powerful in a time of being in the in-between. So He restores our soul. But then in verse 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And that word prepare can be interpreted in a way of saying you set the battle in order. The battle has been set in order for you to win. You have been set up for victory in Christ. You are destined to win. And so why do you think we're called overcomers and victorious and warriors and all these great names in the Bible? Because that's who God says we are. He says, go in the strength of yours. The Lord is with you, mighty man or woman of valor, just as He said to Gideon. And so in a time of in-between where all you hear are the sounds, the voices of the enemy saying, you can't do this, it's intimidation coming your way, threats that are coming your way, and they're false threats, false promises, false lies. A lie is false. But God has already set the battle in order in the presence of my enemies, it says. He doesn't wait till the enemies are gone and then He prepares this fantastic banquet table. It's while the enemy's trying to stop you that you have to see that the battle's already been set in order. The table's already prepared. And it says, you anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. And this needs to be your confession in a time of crossing over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You're in the presence of God. The presence of God is in you, upon you, with you, for you, not against you. And that battle is set in order, and you look at that table in the presence of the enemy who's saying you can't do it. And you say, look what God set out for me. I'm destined to win. And then we go to Psalm 32. Psalm 32 says this. Fantastic one. My favorite one is, although all my favorites. Verse 7, you are my hiding place. You shall preserve me from trouble. You shall surround me with songs of deliverance. I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will guide you with my eye. So in this time of in-between, where you're crossing over, you've left the old behind you, now in unfamiliar territory, you might feel insecure, you might feel wind beaten, or battle worn, but God promises to be our hiding place. In this very place, our hiding place, He promises to preserve us from trouble. The psalmist wrote this because it was a psalm of David, because he knew the character of God. This is what God could do and wants to do for you today. And to surround us with songs of deliverance. That's what you got to hear. The sound of God's voice singing deliverance over you should be louder than the sound of the enemies in the valley. That you feel as if you're in this valley or this wilderness place and God has destined you to win. So while you're on your journey and you're waiting, listen for the sound of deliverance that God is singing over you. That's my encouragement for you today. Have a fantastic day. You're on the winning side. You are destined to win.